One, two. Hi guys, so welcome to In the Classroom with ReOrgChats. Today we are speaking with a very good friend of mine and colleague in the academic space. Words can't explain, can't define this woman. I don't want to get emotional about it. Miss Desi Lopez Calleja. I got it right. You would think that we just met, right? Desi is a retired public school education teacher. You taught for 35 years?
35 years.
35 years. Elementary?
Yes.
But she's more than that. She's an intellectual. She is a lover of the arts, a supporter of the arts, all creative arts, a drama mama. Right? A fellow drama, as in dramatic arts, not as in drama, as in chisme. I mean, sometimes you gotta throw a little chisme, but not.
True.
And so, as I mentioned when I started the series, I wanted to share my journey into the academic space and add into my versatile skill sets and really have stories, because I think it's so much of what we do in life is about community, and my academic community is amazing. So I wanted to share those stories, resources, tips on all things organized with this community. So welcome, Desi. How are you?
I'm great.
I love the purple. I love the purple.
Good color.
Good color. Great minds think alike, right?
Totally.
Great teachers think alike. I mean, you can really vouch more of the teacher merit than I can as a newbie to the space. So tell me about, let's dive right into it. So I know you from, oh my God, so many spaces, but tell me about your teaching journey. Was teaching something that you always wanted to do? Or you were like, heck no, I never wanted to teach. Like, no, absolutely not. Or yeah, I always wanted to teach. So how did you become a teacher, or what did you want to, like, when you grew up, when you were a little girl, did you always wanted to teach?
I always wanted to teach.
Really?
Always. I used to play school, and I was always the teacher.
Okay.
Always. I veered from that in college, trying to find yourself and trying to figure out what you wanted to do as a career.
Okay.
But eventually, I would take different classes. I had the longest transcript in the history of Miami-Dade and FIU because I veered to different areas always, but I always circled back around, and I always wanted to teach.
Okay, and what made you, did you always care what you were teaching? Like whether it was secondary, college, elementary?
I always had an interest in little kids.
Okay.
And
so what grades did you teach most of your career, or all of your career?
Spent, my internship was in kindergarten, and I spent 20 years teaching kindergarten.
Okay.
And then I veered to, I had first grade experience, second grade. I also taught Spanish.
Okay.
And I ended with first grade.
Okay. Okay. Just regular first grade, or did you like gifted? Was that like even a thing that you had when you were teaching?
When I started teaching, is when they introduced, when the Mariel Boatlift.
Yes. Yeah. In the 80s.
In the 80s.
Late
and
80s, yeah.
I was the beginning of the ESOL classes, the ESE children and whatever.
Oh, wow.
I had the first ESOL classes.
Oh, wow.
In Miami.
That. Oh, wow.
Because they had to, they had to do something.
Right.
Because there was such an influx of it, and they had to deal with these, the different levels. And they had to change the whole education system here in Miami to meet the needs of these kids.
Right. And for those of you, just on a side note, as a history teacher, the Mariel was pretty much in the 80s, where an abundance of children from Cuba came to South Florida and were then sent to be with family if they had. I know a lot of Catholic or religious organizations took them into sort of like foster care or interim housing until, if they had family here or family friends, that would then be responsible for them in hopes while their families, their parents came. sometimes their parents did not come,
Right.
were able to come migrate into the country, and sometimes they did. But many of those kids were, are many of the famous faces that we know today. I know prior to that we had Peter Pan, which is another. I'll put a link in the below on a little clip just for educational purposes on a little documentary on Peter Pan and in Mariel. It's a very interesting story. It's not a singular story. This is something that a lot of people have heard. It's the immigration story of a lot of different countries, but it's I think it's personal to us because it's fellow Cuban Americans.
Sure, absolutely.
It's something that's very dear to our personal hearts. But go ahead. So yeah, no, absolutely. I can't imagine what that was like.
No, it was a completely different way, and with whatever emotionally was going on with these families or with these children, they needed to provide an education for them.
Right.
So Miami was thrown into, okay, what do we do now?
Right.
You know, and so they had to provide education, and they developed the ESOL levels 1 to 4, you know, to see where they could place the children and then match their educational skills, because it wasn't fair to receive these children and not find the proper skill set to teach them. It wasn't. It wasn't fair to them. To there was several instances of children that had the education and had the experience and had the knowledge, but they didn't have the language.
The language barrier was a big issue,
right?
Which still is the issue today. We see,
right.
Right.
And so it became not fair to those children to hold them back when they had the skill set. They just didn't have the language. The language was the only thing holding them back.
Right.
So,
and I see it I remember even as someone that's dual language, right? Whether it's Spanish, or English, whatever. There's always that issue where you see a kid. I remember even in my own experience where I remember math is never my forte. Right? Which many of us is, right? I always say if you teach social studies, English language arts, math is not your forte, and vice versa,
100%.
Right? People that teachers that teach science and math are like, social studies and English? No way, right? It's like, good luck. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it, right? Am I wrong?
No, 100%.
Right? I think it's the same, right? It hasn't changed, that perception. And some of them do it all, and you're like, great, God bless. But I remember as a kid, and correct me if I'm wrong, where you would see kids, regardless if it was, in this case, the Marielito, migration of kids in that time period for Cuban Americans, but you would see kids that would be like algebra, right? Because different countries have different level, but they would be put in remedial strictly because of the language. Right. And it was very heartening because it would discourage them. It would really kill their confidence.
Sure.
And speaking about that, just elaborating a little bit, as a teacher, and I can only imagine, I'm experiencing a little bit of that now, right, with the influx of what's going on in Cuba and Venezuela and so many other countries around the world. But there's always a rotation of immigration issues. But in that case, in the Marielito, it's hundreds of thousands. So, and especially being in Miami, where you're 90 miles from Key West, from Cuba, what that was like, and so much of teaching, and you can elaborate this more, and I guess it's more of a question. How was that for you dealing with the emotional element of it, right? Because for a lot of these kids, it wasn't like, oh, I migrated not just with mommy and daddy, but a lot of them were political prisoners based on the history of El Mariel. There were always known, I remember when I was a kid, teenager, during that time, it was the Marielitos had a very bad rep.
Right.
As the criminals. So I can't imagine, or even if that was even something that was in the kid's mind, like that stigma that society had put on this sector of immigrants coming in. Like, did you deal with any of that? Or you didn't focus on that at all? You were like, we're here to learn and you're going to do your best and have a positive outlook.
The one thing that the teachers that were put into this position of teaching these ESOL children, the language, having the language barrier, we tried to find a way to have everybody be equal, and have everybody be the same, and give, do emotional things and do focus on friendships and how to care and how to share and have the classroom be a safe space for them.
Right.
Teach a lot of science and a lot of social studies and things that were not so stressful for them.
Right.
And also too, teaching kindergarten at the time.
I can imagine.
Everybody's the same.
Right.
Nobody, if you knew your colors, you were great. But most kids didn't know their colors, didn't know their shapes, didn't know the basic things, and we all learned it together.
Right.
And so, from that perspective, from teaching, which was my experience, teaching kindergarten was easy.
Right.
Because whether you spoke the language or you didn't, everybody was learning at the same time the same things.
So the grade would definitely helped.
Right.
Versus when you're teaching 5th grade or 4th grade,
totally
where kids have more of
issue.
a self-identity. Little kids in kindergarten are like, yeah, they have little things. Oh, she's this or that, but they don't identify as separate. They identify as who they are, just human beings, just little kids.
Right.
4, 5, 6 age range.
Right.
So would you say then definitely the grade level helped you?
The grade level was perfect for me because it created more of an equal field for everybody because there was not a lot of knowledge to go from, to draw on. So,
speaking of grade levels, what was your favorite grade to teach? Kindergarten?
I loved kindergarten.
Okay.
What it was.
Okay.
Kindergarten today, no.
Yes.
Kindergarten, what it was, which was
kindergarten.
ABC, the sounds, the letters, the colors.
Right.
It was all very basic things, and you went from there.
Did they have pre-K? I mean, it wasn't that long ago.
It was
pre-K something that you had like when you first started teaching?
It was not mandatory. Okay. Kindergarten had just become mandatory.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Kindergarten
had I remember.
Yeah, kindergarten had just become mandatory at that time, so it was mandatory kindergarten and the ESOL situation happening at the same time.
Also, yeah. So to your point, it wasn't something, again, especially referencing back about the immigration for the kids, even if they were more advanced or they weren't, the kids here wouldn't even make them feel bad because if you didn't go to pre-K, you didn't know your colors, I didn't know my colors, so we're good to go.
Right.
Yeah.
You're
so from a interaction, it was perfect for kids and how they bonded and psychologically. So you would say definitely kindergarten was your favorite?
Totally.
Do you want to share what was your least favorite? Or moments?
Teaching Spanish was a challenge because yes, I can speak Spanish and I can read Spanish and I can write Spanish, but teaching it is a whole other ballgame. Right. And so Spanish I was not too happy with. First grade is very difficult.
Really?
Because they have to learn how to read.
Right.
And they have no choice.
Right.
And neither do you.
Right.
It has to happen. And it's very stressful for the kids that have different levels and different things going on and they're not there yet. You gotta make it happen.
Right.
So it's a lot of pressure for first grade. Kindergarten I loved.
So I always say, and I will continue to say, and I know you and I off camera, we've had several conversations about this, as someone who studied business administration, non-education, migrating into the academic space, from my observation and even hands-on, I always say that teachers are the most amazing project managers, right? You know how to pivot like nobody's business. You know how to run a budget when there is no budget. You know how to run a team, several teams, the most important teams, the little people, right? That they may not always understand what you're communicating to them. Right. And then you have to deal with the teams of your colleagues and parents, etc., right? And the community. All while staying within decorum, right? Not to say in a business world you can't lose your bonkers, for lack of a better term, but in teaching you cannot. Do you? Absolutely. You go to a room and you scream, but you have to maintain because you're an example.
Right.
Not just
and you're always on.
Right, exactly, right? It's like acting, right? The camera's always on you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many more repercussions, I feel, in teaching than in the business world if you get out of character, for lack of a better term.
Right,
Does
because
that
you
make
have
sense?
30 bodies.
Right, and you have
Constant.
peers, and,
Right.
and those 30 bodies will report to their parents, even
Sure.
if this. So there's so many. So what would you give us some tips, of course, since we love to talk about organizing, and you, off the top of your head, or just how did you like keep it together? Like, I learned lesson planning, right? Which for me was like, oh my God, how do I lesson plan for kids
Right.
with special needs? And not to say that was a problem, but when I was a kid, if you learn differently, there were certain things that I didn't, certain subjects that weren't strengths. You were just put in a different room and you had 1-on-1 help or 3-on-4 help. Now you have inclusive classrooms, right? So you have to pivot, and your lesson plan has to be able to accommodate those that are at a grade 1 and those that are at grade 5 in reading, for example.
Right.
So what was something, let me backtrack. Give me a day-to-day of your day when you were teaching. Like, how would you lesson plan? Did you lesson plan for the quarter? Did you lesson plan week by week? Or, I mean, you always pivot, even when you're like, oh, my lesson plans are good.
Yeah.
But you always change. Like, how did you keep yourself organized? Like, how?
I went through different administrations, being
Yeah.
a teacher, the principals change and,
Yeah.
and things, so they require you to do different things, again, with the pivot
Mhm.
situation. You learn one way, this principal wants you to have things this way, and then all of
Okay.
a sudden they transfer her, and then there's another person, and then
Yeah.
you got to go with the flow, whatever,
Right.
which is the main thing for a teacher.
Mhm.
100% be flexible always,
Mhm.
because you can have the greatest lesson, the greatest plan, you have every single thing organized, ready to go, everything on target, you have all your manipulatives, you have all your things that you need, and there's a fire drill in the middle.
Right.
So,
Right.
no
right.
lesson, get out,
Right.
make
Right.
sure there's no problem, then come back, your lesson's over.
Right.
So then you got to pivot to the next day.
Right.
And then little Johnny throws up in the middle of it.
Right.
And then
Right. Right. Right.
It's all different,
Right.
every single day. You can never, rare are the days that whatever's written down is what's covered from 8:15 till 2:05 or 1:50 or what,
Right.
1:50, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It's rare.
It's never the same.
it's
It's true.
Never
No
the same.
day, especially with the little ones.
Right. Things always things always change, things always are different, and you have to be ready for that.
Right.
I think the best thing that a teacher could do is organize, definitely, plan, definitely, but you have to be flexible, and you can't be hard on yourself because you didn't accomplish whatever it said. Tuesday, you had to do this and this and this, and it's Thursday, and you still haven't gotten to Monday's lesson, and you feel like a failure at the end because you start to judge yourself by your colleagues in the hallway saying, oh, I finished all my plans, and I have new plans, and everything is done, and da-da-da.
Right, right.
And you're like, I didn't get past Monday.
Right.
Feeling that you failed in some way, which I was always hard on myself that way.
Okay.
But anybody coming in, I would say, shut out the outside noise.
Mhm.
And when you're shut the door and you're inside with those children, that's where your focus is. You got to meet the kids that you're given where they are.
Right.
You
Give
know?
yourself grace.
Right.
Speaking of, you touched on some really good points. I find that, and this is the message that I get from either soon to be retired or retired like yourself, or those who have been teaching over a decade, where they do talk about if they didn't allow themselves, like you did, to give themselves grace for their mental space and for their physical space, there definitely is more advocacy for health and wellness.
Yeah. Now.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, yes,
Would you find from the
yes.
time that you started to the time that you
Yes.
retired, which wasn't that, how long ago did you retire? Not that long ago.
10 years.
Okay. All right. But did you definitely find space for that? Like the districts, and not just in South Florida, but just in general, in the academic space where there is now giving grace and time is being allocated into protocols and HR to allow teachers for that time to just mentally have resources available.
There definitely, I see now that there definitely is more. A lot of, there's also more accountability.
Yes, absolutely.
For teachers too. That since there are more resources available, you are 100% accountable if you see, the old see something, say something situation, that you are definitely held to a different standard now than you were before.
Because you don't have the excuse, because now you have the resources if you need them.
Yeah, like why didn't you say that you
needed this time off, or that this was going on, or whatever.
Right.
Or you weren't in the good headspace because of something in your personal life, right?
Exactly.
Because people think that teachers just don't have a personal life, right? Which always is very comical, right? I see students, when I was in New York last winter, I saw 2 of my students, one which I didn't have any idea, but have you ever encountered that, just on the side note, where you're traveling and they're like, Miss Desi, and you're like, oh, hi. Or they see you at the grocery store and they don't think you have a daily life.
They don't, it doesn't fit for them, especially the little ones.
Yeah.
When they would see you shopping, grocery, or at the, whatever, you're in a mall and you see them, they can't organize their thought process. They're like, what is she doing here? There's a book, My Teacher Lives at School.
Oh, okay.
And
I love that.
Book.
Okay,
and
we'll have to check it out. We'll put a link below on Amazon.
and it's exactly that they think that that's where you live.
Right.
That's where you are, and that's all you do.
Okay.
It's weird for them. No,
it makes perfect sense. No. My teacher lives in school, because probably the little ones, I'm sure they literally think that you live in school. Like they have no concept.
Yeah, they can't. They can't relate.
They can't
to
disassociate you outside of the classroom.
I did it as we had a literary parade once, and I did that book and I was in a big house coat, and I put cream all over my face and put curlers, and I was the head of the parade.
You were.
As I
live here.
I live here, right?
What were 2 questions? And this is my little Barbara Walters moment.
Oh my. Let me sit up.
She's like, let me sit up for this one.
Uh-oh.
Of course, we always keep privacy of our students, our staff, and the schools that we've worked for. But what were your high points of teaching, and what were your low points? I'll let you be the one to... Or did you have no low points or no high points?
My high points were always kid-related.
Okay.
Always. I had a specific high point in that I taught kindergarten, and then they transferred me to 2nd grade.
Okay.
And I was able to teach the same kids.
Oh, okay.
In 2nd grade.
Okay.
And I remember specifically this one event, opening the door my first time in 2nd grade, and I was a little nervous too, having been in kindergarten for 20 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm in 2nd grade. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this.
Right.
And I opened the door, and the kids start coming in, and they all looked at me wide-eyed, and they started crying because they were scared to come into 2nd grade.
Right.
And when they saw that I was their teacher in 2nd grade, they're all hugging and kissing and crying.
It was a comfort space.
Yes.
So it was a relief.
Yes. And they all felt, we had a wonderful year. They felt super comfortable because I already knew them, the families, it was not a get to know your crowd situation.
No breaking of any ice.
Right. It was like, okay, we're in 2nd grade, let's go.
And I love that you said that, like, we were both, like, emotional and excited because, and for you it was something new, and for them it was going, and I know for my own children, like, 2nd grade becomes, like, it's big boy grade.
Yes.
Or big girl grade.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
kindergarten, it's still, you're learning. First grade, you're learning how to read, but it's still like there's this nurturing. I mean, there's always a nurturing element to teaching.
Yeah,
you
but
have to
second
care.
grade, you're
You're
this
more
is
like
it.
it's becoming like it's the big boys or big
Yeah.
girls are heading up.
Yeah.
And what were your low points, if you want to share?
Low points.
I know there could be many. Not to be negative.
Well, no, not
but,
to be
you know.
negative. Honestly, dealing with seeing teachers not being respected.
I think
Overall.
that's still, yeah.
Overall, even with the pandemic, which thankfully I was not a part of.
Right, because you retired pretty much like 2
right.
years, like right in the crust.
Yes.
Like,
So I was
yeah.
very grateful and thankful, and I witnessed the Zoom fiasco,
yeah, of course.
but the pressure was on teachers of, okay, you're in the classroom, okay, we're shutting down, make it happen. You're on Zoom tomorrow.
Right, like no time to transition into that.
And
Yeah.
what happened? No matter what you throw at a teacher, the teacher makes it happen.
Right, right. You make the best out of it
It
because you're caring for your kids.
right.
Yeah.
There's an emotional component, I think, for everyone that's a teacher that I can handle it. I'll make it happen. I'll make it work. It's okay. And once you shut that door and you're there with those kids, yes, you're accountable 100%, but you're also determined, like, I cannot fail these children.
Right.
And I will do whatever I need to do so they succeed.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you make me do. It doesn't matter what you put me through. I will succeed. These
With these
children
kids.
will succeed.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's, that to me is an overall low point in the whole system of teaching,
Yeah.
is that they're honestly not respected enough.
Right. And I would you say, and there goes to my final question, one of my pre-final questions. How do you think now 10 years, almost now a decade out of teaching, but still very much involved through your volunteer work in the academic space in your local community, not in kindergarten, but in the performing arts, which is something that you care about. You're an aficionado of visual and the creative spaces for kids and the importance of it. We share that in common. How do you think teaching has changed today, apart from the still respect and acknowledgement from when you started or from when you retired?
I think that
Or how can it be improved?
that's a separate question.
That is a separate question.
I think that, speaking of the little ones, which is my
Yeah, your area. Yeah.
area of expertise, my area that I'm most familiar with, children are not allowed to be children.
I like that. Yeah.
Children are not allowed, the expectations for them is too much, too high, and too quick.
Yeah. I think the too quick is a big issue. Because I understand they have to evolve with technology, and there's a
Right.
bigger question. There's a policy issue
Right.
here. There's so many things that they have to, that falls, especially public school education,
Right.
as you and I both know. But even in the private school education or magnets, there's so many divisions of sectors of schools, right? How they're categorized. But I think, yeah, the at the speed is
They're thrown too much, and
Too quick.
developmentally they're not ready to internalize it and give it back to you. I mean, it's just rote memorization. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they internalized
Right.
what you're, and
Right.
and the not philosophy, but the testing situation is,
a problem.
it kills creativity. It kills really in-depth teaching.
And I can only imagine, like, my son being in the 3rd grade. We've had these conversations. Like, he now has to, he's a creative kid, as you know. you know, we all learn differently, right?
Sure.
My older one is a
But
creative kid, but he was like first grade reading
But there's
at a third grade level.
there's
Not
no
everybody learns the
time
same.
for creativity.
There's no buffer. It's like
No.
you got 2 weeks to learn how to read. Figure it out.
And that's it. And
Right.
and you're
Yeah.
given what you're given,
Right.
and you have to perform. You
Right.
have to spit it back out.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that you know it, understand it, internalized it, can really have it as a knowledge base for you.
You're just
They just want
memorizing
you to
stuff.
spit it back out.
Right. You're just memorizing stuff.
Right.
It's not about knowledge anymore.
No.
It's just about, or understanding. It's just about memorizing it.
And
Done.
even the kind of teacher that you are isn't the kind of teacher or the kind of human that you want to portray yourself as a teacher. You're not given that grace either, because your performance is based on what numbers did you
Yeah,
get?
I know.
What are the scores? What are the levels? What
Yeah.
number do you have? It's not humanely, how did you reach these children? Do they feel secure with you? Do they feel love from you? Do they feel ready to learn from you?
Right.
None of that isn't,
Right, the
it's
human
all-
element is becoming away, and it's funny because it's almost like an oxymoron, right? From one hand, there's so many, again, touching back on a point that we talked, it's like from one element, more research for health and wellness, and for the kids too, right? But then you're emotionally stressing them out.
Sure.
Especially the ones that are very concerned about performance. Not to say that some kids that don't perform at a high level or that are quote unquote gifted don't have that same pressure than those that care about their A's and their B's. But it takes away, it's like, so what do you want? Do you want them to be emotionally stable, but you want them to
Right.
perform at a high level? And if not, you have a kindergarten, to your point, or a third grader that even if they want to be a kid, they know in the back of their head that if I don't do well on this test, I'm not going to go to
Right.
third grade. So then what happens? Their lack of confidence. They feel like they're dumb.
Right.
You know, and then
Right.
of course to add on to kids being kids. You know,
Yeah.
because they're great. They can be mean. You know what I mean? And that's
Completely.
fine. That part we can take. So right. So I think it's how do we synchronize the emotional element to the technology to the expectation in a perfect world, right? Like how that's the goal, right?
It's very difficult in technology. I remember asking a group of kids when books weren't even published, books were going to stop being published and they were going to do everything online. And the kids would say to me, older kids that would come back and want to help and things like that in the school, they would say that we spend so much time socially online that in school we want books.
Right. Right.
We want to turn a page and we want to highlight a sentence.
Yes.
We don't want computers. We want books.
Yeah.
Because books are associated with school.
Right. Right.
And I know I'm being old and
No.
teaching old school. That really touched me deeply because I was like, huh.
But you know what? It's true because, here in South Florida we have the also mighty iReady, right? Which is a platform where kids get evaluated on, it's a daily, weekly, depending on what parameters, what goals the teacher put, and the kids have to complete a certain number of exercises a week, a day on, let's say, math or science.
Sadly, very familiar with iReady.
Yes, we're all very familiar with iReady, right? Math or English. And it's good, but even when I see the kids, and it's like, guys, did you do iReady? Like in my case, when I've taught middle school and they have to do iReady, they really don't want if it's their phone, yes, for middle schoolers, right? They're like, yeah. But if it's a computer, they don't want to, and you're right, even till present day.
Yes.
They're okay with the books. They may not always be excited and cheery to read about it, but the concept of a book that's tangible is how they associate that particular subject in that particular class with.
Yes.
They don't associate it with a laptop, even today. A phone is a different story, right? And they'll do the laptop for typing, but when you tell them, okay, let's do iReady or let's do this, it's always like, really? And you're like, but guys, you guys are the era of technology.
Yeah.
There's not disconnect, which is good, right? But it's still, So, a lot of solutions to be had. So my final question to you, would you go back to teaching?
No. Was that too fast? Sorry.
I think I know why.
No. No. Mm-mm.
Because of exactly what we just discussed.
Yeah. It's not for me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
No.
You're like,
No. Kids, yes. Everything else that goes along with it, you can have it.
What's a tip that you would give a new or someone who's thinking about going into the academic space to close? Apart from, you sure you want to do it? Or you do?
It's not a job.
Mm-hmm. It isn't. You're right.
It's a passion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a calling.
Mm-hmm.
And give yourself, again,
grace
to figure that out.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to, if it is for you, you're going to have to be able to shut out the noise
Mm-hmm.
and do what you want to do with the children that you're given.
Okay.
It's a massive responsibility, like no other
It is.
career, I think.
Yeah.
And it's hard to turn it off
Yeah.
because you're walking in a grocery store. Oh, I can use those Cheerios for counting. Oh, those sticks I can. Oh, wait. Oh, look at that. I can use those things for clipping my homework.
Yeah.
Oh,
So you're always in the classroom.
You're always
Yeah.
thinking of something for those kids. And if you're not willing to invest that fully in something,
Then don't do it.
then don't do it. Because it can consume you, and it consumes you correctly if it is your passion, so you're fine.
Right.
But if you don't have that, don't do it. Because it's a disservice then to the kids that are in front of you.
Right.
Because to them, you're everything.
Right. And would you say that even applies? I would say yes, but correct me if I'm wrong. I would say that doesn't just apply to elementary, but it also applies to middle school and high school.
Absolutely.
And sometimes even college.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Because experiencing different kids at different ages, why are they gravitated to you, to
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
to share confidences or to,
Right.
to share whatever situation is going on with them? They're drawn to someone that they feel heart to heart with.
Right. Yeah.
And as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
you can't lose that.
Right.
You have to have that, because that's what's going to make you survive different administrations and survive different things that are going to be happening to
Right.
you, whatever switches they come your way. You can't lose the heart for it.
You have to have empathy.
Completely.
Right. Without being too personal either.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Or create those barriers.
Right. You have to
Right.
keep the boundaries straight, but the emotionality, you can't lose that.
You can't lose that. So, to close, I know we've said close for 5 times already.
Well, you and I closing is never...
It's never ending. I know. We can have an all-day conversation here. But real closing. So I know that you do a lot of volunteer work within the community, local schools here in the dramatic and performing arts, since you have an Academy Award-winning grandchild.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. That's how I think of him. From a very long time, since for the first time I met him and I saw him perform 4 years ago. But what, how do you think, just a quick note, and that segues into our next interview and our next episode of your chats, because as you can see, I love performing in the visual and performing arts. Someone who, again, has sort of taught, per se, in that creative space and helped out, but just not in a formal capacity. How important is the creative arts in academic? I remember when I was young, it was everything. I know there's funding, there's so many issues, and we're not going to get into that. How important it is, not just the creative arts, but just having music or drawing or anything that's not just English, math, science in the school, which I feel that's something that's being diminished completely. Even recess, even lunch, the socialization element. How do you?
The creative arts, you have to be in the space to really understand what I'm saying, but I've seen children come in, special needs children even, okay, that come in and their head is down and their shoulders are slumped and they're embarrassed, they don't want to participate, they can't participate, no, they actually don't make eye contact, so you pick this person here instead of, to do improv or to come in on the stage area and do, fall on the floor and be silly and whatever. They don't want to participate. I've seen these children go from their own space to sitting up straight, head up, and being the first ones to want to participate.
Yeah.
And the first ones that are loud, that you honestly have to tell them, stop talking already. Enough.
Yeah.
Sit.
Yeah.
I've seen them physically change. The arts, whether they're going to be performers in the future or not. The creative arts teaches them self-confidence, self-worth, socialization, how to deal with different people, because they're thrown in there and their home lives and everybody's life is completely different. And they end up being a family. They end up caring for each other and understanding each other and communicating with each other. The creative arts are completely necessary for the social and emotional growth of a kid.
Right.
I've seen the change.
Right, firsthand, right.
Firsthand.
Even before your own grandchild, right?
That I
saw
know,
it from your music and
completely.
art. And,
They completely change. They feel safe with you and safe with the kids around them, so they are fully able to express themselves, fully able to communicate, and fully able to want to be socially and part of the experience. I've seen the change. It's a beautiful thing. Whether they perform in the future or not, it gives them their own worth.
Right.
It changes.
And it's a good outlet also in the future, right? We see it even within ourselves, right? Whether it be visual and performing arts, just like plants, or just having an outlet outside of your norm or outlets is so important.
Yeah.
So there you go. See, from one tenured teacher to another new teacher. Desi, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your story.
Oh.
All the links of everything we discussed will be below, including sharing some links for our local non-for-profits of our creative arts schools, local community schools, and some great resources will be in the link below. Don't forget to follow us at ReOrgChats, ReOrgChats, and stay safe, and stay awesome, stay creative, stay learning.
I like that.
Stay learning. Bye, guys. Okay, great. So you'll cut from clap to clap.